Okay, so here's the updated Internet Manifesto. So the last one, obviously, on archive.org, so it got archived, and now here's the updated one. So, as linked here. The villain here is not necessarily the internet, or even the idea of social media. It is the invasion of invasive logic of commercial social media and its financial incentive to keep us in a profitable state of anxiety, envy, and distraction. It is furthermore the cult of individuality and personal branding that grow out of such platforms and affect the way we think about our offline selves in the places where we actually live. So again, same quote, same idea. We're in this, we've got social media companies that want to keep us locked in and scrolling so that they can feed us ads. In the earlier iterations of this manifesto, I made the mistake of focusing too heavily on the creation of personal websites as the main method of fighting against the exploitative capitalist hellscape that has become our internet. I've since learned that there's more we can do to transform the internet that goes far beyond the act of creating a website, so I wanted to update this page with new information. For example, we can work on transforming social relations online. This is something anyone can participate in. With a little effort, social relations online, especially on social media, tend to be divisive and hostile. It's easy to forget that there are real people on the other side of the screen. So, I kind of went over this. You really don't know who's on the other side of the screen. Some people may say, you sound white over there, so I'm going to treat you badly. When in reality, they could be a minority who they supposedly vouch for or fight for, but then they end up being the horrible racist person that they say they fight against. And so that's why we have to be good faith, as explained last video, in our social online relations. So to work on this, we could start by keeping others' humanity in mind and treating them with respect. Again, you don't know who's over there. When conflict eventually happens, we would turn that conflict into something constructive. That means using conflict as an opportunity to come to a mutual and better understanding of each other's viewpoints. Note, this doesn't apply to trolls, people who intentionally try to instigate hostility or arguments online. When you are dealing with trolls, never feed the trolls. The trolls are here to ruin your experience online, and sometimes the only appropriate response is to, respond in kind. The internet has normalized debating with each other. In debates, there can only be one winner. The net has also normalized lack of nuance, a gray area in between the two extremes, which tends to be divisive. And I've had experience with that because there are some people that they have to win, or there are certain things that I've said that bother them, and so they come back into my DMs that's like, can we agree to disagree and just drop this whole subject? Because it doesn't really matter. And I'm the one being accused of being intolerant or being like bothered by certain things or being delusional, when the other person is the one bothering me about something that was said in a previous conversation that I swear we agreed that we were done with. And that's a whole other thing on its own. So be nice to other people, keep in mind their humanity, and that they have a right to their own opinion and their own beliefs. It would be infinitely more constructive if, instead of debating with others, we started a dialogue, working together on the same team as others in order to form a common understanding. This is different than agreeing to disagree, and more like making an effort to listen and view something from each individual's perspective. It requires being open to changing your perspective in the first place. So we can still disagree on something and still see things from another person's perspective. So you still agree, in a sense, agree to disagree, but you understand because you're trying to take into account the other person's background, their own viewpoints, and even in many cases, their theological and philosophical understandings that they're going through, so we can sit there and talk to each other, nail things out that way, and be okay. In order to discuss social relations online, it's impossible to ignore social media. Originally, I felt that social media was pure toxicity, and there was no benefit at all from being a part of it. It exploits us by selling our data and bombarding us with ads, and is full of trolls. At the same time, it's where people are. It's how many people keep in touch with their friends, and leaving social media would be even more alienating than continuing to use it. Yes. Sadly, everyone's on it, and they don't want to move to other alternatives. We shouldn't shame others for using social media. As long as people continue to use it, we should advocate for learning to use those platforms in different, healthier, and more humanizing ways. For example, we could do this by placing less effort on liking posts and more effort on responding to them with an intention to make a real connection with its author. So yeah, add comments, and if when someone adds a comment to it, be willing to listen if it's something critical, or enjoy the fact that they're commenting nicely to it. The default goal on social media is to amass followers and likes rather than to make meaningful connections with other people. And that's something we can counter by changing our behavior. Yes, but I want money. Please. So, but yeah, it's really true. Like, making those meaningful connections can help build your audience. And it may seem counterintuitive to do that, but once that audience gets really huge, that's when it can become troublesome to connect with everyone. And that can be the hard part, is as you gain a following, you start to have such a huge following that you can't respond to everything. Parasocial relationships are another strange distortion of social relations that have become a much more commonplace online. These are the relations between influencers or social media personalities and their fans or followers, and is another example of unequal and potentially alienating, dehumanizing interaction online, often for all parties involved. And again, this becomes a thing of, you are an influencer and you're influencing mobs of people, and then sometimes the justice system blames you for what your followers did, even though you blatantly say don't go harassing people. As a brief aside, it brings me much ick to acknowledge that my website is at the top of NeoCity's most followed sites. This was my experience being parasocialed against my will. What started as a spotlight on my space quickly started feeling like a target on my back. Because I have amassed thousands of followers, I have apparently somehow become less human, less approachable, and more easily abstracted into an idea or concept. It's easier for people to wonder aloud about me and my personal life in social spaces, or to publicly cast judgment on my actions, or in some cases create untrue stories about my actions to begin with. It's an intensely unpleasant and dehumanizing experience. So this is what happens, is they look at certain posts, maybe they cherry pick certain things rather than like looking at everything that you've posted and said. And then it becomes this, oh, you're this kind of a person, when it's like, oh, well, maybe there's a bit more nuance to it, and I understand why you posted that thing a little bit more, but people don't do that. I have been there. NeoCities is more than web host. It is technically social media. I would define it this way based on the ability for accounts to follow and be followed, the ability to find other websites via tags and the directory, and the ability to comment on one another's site profiles. Creating and maintaining a static website tends to be a solitary act, but NeoCities brings this to the next level with the implementation of social features. This means we can even practice transforming social relations here by creating meaningful connections with our fellow webmasters in whichever way these are available to us: profile comments, email, Discord, etc. The other thing we can do is to create our own spaces. The best spaces I have encountered online are small spaces, group chats, very small servers with less than 20 people. In my experiences, especially with Yesterweb, it becomes harder to make meaningful connections in a sea of hundreds, thousands, or more. This is why you often see like a lot of like YouTubers that have their like small group of friends, because it's that meaningful experience, and it becomes harder on their community like Discords or chats in order to build that. But they still try to interact with people. The experience summary of the Yesterweb community explains in depth the highlights and headwinds of our experience organizing a community with an overarching goal to make real social change. On a final note, I want to remind everyone that the problem we're experiencing on the web are reflections of the same problems that exist in real life. So We have a hard time talking about things, and that's why we have a hard time doing it online. If you enjoyed the video, then like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm, boost the video up, share this video with your friends. If you found it informative or you just want to chat, I've got plenty of places in the description, Discord, Guilded, and what have you. Check those out, and I will see you guys in the next one.